This is a chart that will absolutely blow your mind. Right here, we have this bar representing the baby boomers. Pretty high up there as you'd expect, just like their narcissistic egos. And next up, we have the good old Gen X, who kind of always seems to be left out of these conversations. And finally, we have my generation, the millennials. So, as you can see, all these bars are generally quite close to each other. Not much difference at all between the three generations before Gen Z. And then right here we have Gen Z, all the way down here. This chart right here represents the total amount of money spent on alcohol consumption by each generation. And as we can see, Gen Z is the massive winner here by a wide margin, wasting literally 10 times less money on alcohol. I'm just gonna come out and say this. This is a massive net positive for society as a whole. Alcohol consumption is just an objectively bad thing in 99% of instances. It's caused all kinds of human pain and suffering between drunk driving accidents, substance abuse, and domestic violence. And it's provided very little benefit, aside from maybe a funny story or memory here and there about something stupid we all did when we were drunk. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not here to judge everyone who's ever had a drink every now and then. I've certainly done so myself as well, but that's kind of the point. The Gen Z bar on the graph isn't zero, it's just a perfectly reasonable, non-excessive amount that it should be. The fast food industry is facing a very similar predicament. Between how bad their food is, how horribly they treat and pay their employees, and now on top of all that, their prices aren't even affordable anymore. It's safe to say that fast food is one of the most corrupt, evil businesses ever. But thanks to Gen Z refusing to buy their trash, this once mighty, unstoppable juggernaut in the American economy has been brought down to their knees as of late. Their CEO is panicking, and they're even beginning to lower their prices and offer promotions to try and win back some younger Gen Z consumers. All around the world, we're seeing nightclubs, bars, even Hooters, all these evil, corrupt corporations get shut down and totally put out of business, thanks to Gen Z. Gen Z has been pushed to the economic limit more so than any other living generation. Boomer bosses and employers with their narcissistic, never-ending greed for more profits have been financially strangling Gen Z from the time they came of age and entered the workforce, constantly raising prices and paying their workers as little as possible. This capitalist cycle for endless maximal profits can continue on for a while until they run into one major problem. What happens when no one is buying their stuff anymore? This is Hooters, a previously timeless establishment whose entire business model is essentially based on scamming men with pretty female waitresses. Now, it was once thought that Hooters would be relevant for as long as humanity existed because, well, men would always be a bunch of naive simps. And for the most part, they were right until, you guessed it, Gen Z came along. It was recently reported that Hooters is in serious danger of going out of business because, well, Gen Z men have rightfully figured out it's a total scam and waste of money. And this once prosperous enterprise is now teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. Let's go back to McDonald's. When I was 18, I took a basic class in community college about investing and financial management, and the first thing they taught us was to always invest part of your portfolio in McDonald's and Coca-Cola. And this is because these businesses were thought of to be a stable, timeless, and constantly profitable business. They weren't going to give you big explosive gains in any one year, but they'd be enough to give you a steady and reliable 2 to 3% gains every single year, allowing you to slowly accrue wealth over the long term. The general idea here is that it was thought of as safe of an investment as you could have because it was thought that these businesses would be profitable so long as humanity still existed. Now, let's keep it real here. McDonald's isn't going out of business anytime soon. But the fact that the fast food CEOs are universally sounding the alarm and panicking about fewer customers, especially fewer younger customers, has shown there's already been a fundamental, seismic shift in how Gen Z has already affected the global economy on a macro level. And we've recently scored a massive W. To win back its lower and middle income customers, McDonald's recently announced a new extra value meal range that will come into effect from September 8th, 2025. From the $5 meal deal to the McValue, and now the extra value meals, we're sending a clear message. We're here for our customers, said Joe Erlinger, a McDonald's USA president, in a press statement. McDonald's will always be a place where you can get the food you love at a price that fits your life. Yeah, not so sure about that last sentence. Anyways, I digress. The CEO of Chipotle also recently echoed a strikingly similar sentiment. Chipotle CEO Scott Boatwright said young diners between the ages of 25 and 35 are cutting back on dining at the Mexican-inspired fast casual chain. But these millennials and Gen Z customers are not snubbing Chipotle for other fast food spots. They've stopped dining out as frequently altogether. This group is facing several headwinds, including unemployment, increased student loan repayment, and slower real wage growth. Boatwright told investors at the company's earnings presentation on Wednesday, "We're not losing them to the competition, we're losing them to grocery and food at home." Boatwright noted Chipotle customers making less than $100,000, about 40% of Chipotle's consumer base, are also pulling back. They feel the pinch, and we feel the pullback from them as well, he concluded. And make no mistake here, he's not nearly as benevolent as he's trying to come across here. He only cares about the economic prosperity of young people now because it's starting to affect their ultimate bottom line of profits. After years and years of being crushed by rampant inflation, Gen Z is fighting back and winning via minimalism and anti-consumerism. Even the mightiest corporations now are starting to feel the pinch. And as we'll soon see, the effects of this are absolutely game-changing. From saving the planet and environment to finally freeing us all from the shackles of wage slavery, this is the post-work, post-capitalist society we're rapidly heading towards. Hey guys, we set out on a mission during the summer to take down the biggest, most vile Gen Z hater, the Angry Guy, a straight up horrible human being who hates Gen Z so much he even celebrates them dying. Thanks to you, we've gained a ton of ground on him over the summer, and we've set a new goal to surpass him in subscribers and defeat him once and for all by the end of the year. So, if you're new here and enjoying this content, definitely consider subscribing and helping us take down the biggest, most evil, final boss Gen Z hater. With your help, we can absolutely do this. Part 2. Why Gen Z? So, fast food and alcohol are not good for you, and we've all intuitively known this for years. Every generation knew this before Gen Z as well, which begs the question, why hasn't this ever happened before? Now, to be fair, part of the reason is simply for the fact that prices have never just been this bad before. I've always said that as bad as us millennials had it with the job market, prices were at least quite reasonable back then. Gen Z has it even worse as they have to deal with the same horrible job market and sky-high prices on top of that. But I think the biggest reason is simply that Gen Z has been smart enough to figure out that the whole system is a scam, and as a result, they can't be psychologically shamed and manipulated into giving up their entire lives to pursue materialist, consumerist measures of success. You can sit up there and call me an unemployed loser all you want. I'm straight up not going to give a rip when I can see with my own two eyes that even going to college and trying to get a job won't get you anything but a mountain of debt and 1,000 job applications with 0 responses whatsoever. There was another comment on one of my videos that I think summed it up quite perfectly. Gen Z doesn't necessarily have more balls, they just arrived at the trap after the bait was gone. Over the course of last summer, my channel really blew up as I started highlighting all the interesting, creative ways young Zoomers were able to survive and even thrive without a traditional 9-to-5 job. We saw many inspiring stories, from a young Chinese girl learning to cook and living off barely $1 a day, to a young Swedish giga-chad venturing out into the wilderness and building a log cabin out of nothing. I recently saw yet another incredibly inspiring example blow up completely out of nowhere. A young 20-something-year-old Japanese guy who goes by Vagabond on YouTube. His very first video ever was posted just 7 days ago and has already blown up to over 200,000 views and amassed him 13,000 subscribers. As someone who knows how hard it is to make it on YouTube, I gotta say, mad respect. In his video, he talks about how he's able to live off $10 a day in cheap Japanese accommodation known as the doya. And I gotta say, for $10 a day, this is a pretty sweet deal. They have Wi-Fi, a TV, and a fridge. It's honestly already way better than these absurd $2,000 rent prices for a tiny shoebox studio with no amenities we're paying out here in the West. Now, 10 to 15 years ago, this guy would have been outcast and shunned by society as a total loser and failure. But today, thanks to Gen Z rightfully recognizing the massive scam the entire system is built upon, comments on his video were overwhelmingly supportive. People were praising him, not because this is a perfect ideal lifestyle, but because of how big of a scam this entire freaking system is. You're going to be stuck in a similar position even if you go the traditional route anyways. There are a lot of people in the West today living in similar shoebox studio apartments, and they have to work 8 hours a day at a miserable job they hate just to barely be able to afford it. This guy at least doesn't have to work for it. He may not have a lot of material possessions, but he makes up for it with something far more valuable and priceless. And that is his time, health, and freedom. The mental time and space to pursue the things that truly make him happy without having to be a slave to the system. By the way, definitely check out and subscribe to his channel. I can already feel that this guy is going to be an absolute star on YouTube. Part 3. The future. Vagabond and other countless Gen Zers have already intuitively and preemptively caught on to what the future economy 10, 20, 50 years later will inevitably look like. Capitalism is inevitably going to collapse in the AI automation future. It's already happening in front of our very eyes as we speak, with McDonald's, Hooters, and Chipotle, and many other once invincible capitalist enterprises. Capitalism is a system that prioritizes profits and growth above all else. The problem, however, is that the easiest way to maximize profits is to either pay workers less or fire them altogether, which is what we're seeing unfold in real time right now. This cycle can only continue for so long until people get pushed to the point where they no longer even have enough money to buy stuff anymore. Then it's no longer even profitable for capitalist corporations anymore, which is why they ultimately just end up getting bailed out by the government in the end. Funny how these capitalist cucks will throw a massive temper tantrum and hissy fit over someone receiving $200 in food stamps, but they never complain about the rich receiving billions of dollars of taxpayer-funded government bailouts and subsidies for free. And this isn't to say that profits are always bad and evil 100% of the time. It's just that they shouldn't be the one singular end-all be-all measure of success. In the post-capitalist, post-labor economy AI is inevitably pushing us towards, I believe we'll think of success in many different ways, not just one. Mental health, physical health, sustainability, and community, just to name a few. And all these things that Gen Z has already wisely begun to prioritize over profits and material possessions, which we're already seeing the effects of right now. Some might say that this is idealist utopian thinking, but to be honest, they're just projecting. The idea that the capitalist maximal profit economic model is gonna last much longer when people don't even have money to spend and produce profits is what's truly naive, idealistic, and utopian. The only reason this system has even lasted this long isn't because the system itself is still working. It's because the government steps in and bails them out every time their system fails. And I know capitalist cucks will say that they don't support government bailouts either, But here's the problem. Capitalism itself inherently failed without government bailouts, which is why they needed government bailouts in the first place to begin with. This is another reason Gen Z is absolutely right for not wanting to work, pay taxes, or buy into the system. What's the point when your hard-earned tax dollars are just gonna go to bailing out the failed businesses of the rich who don't even work themselves while calling you lazy for not wanting to work? Conclusion. I think the most beautiful part of Gen Z's anti-consumerist movement is that unlike having to wait for systemic political progress, which can be painfully slow and depressing, embracing an anti-consumerist lifestyle gives you agency and direct control over your own destiny. This isn't to say we shouldn't fight for systemic change and progress. We absolutely should and will. But we kind of also have to pay our own bills and improve our own situation in the meantime. Not to mention, it will eventually force systemic change at some point because, as we're already seeing, at some point, corporations are going to have to address the issue of how people are going to buy their products without money. And this is what Zoomers like Vagabond, Eric Grankfist, and Xiao Jai Jai have done brilliantly. Consumerism and materialism were the psychological forces that kept previous generations enslaved their whole lives. We don't have a physical ball and chain anymore, but we absolutely have a psychological one which keeps us trapped in miserable jobs we hate through the pressure of always having to buy the most expensive shiny new object. As the legendary Fight Club quote goes, we buy things we don't need, with money we don't have, to impress people we don't even like. Gen Z realized this long before any other generation, and as a result, they're about to change the entire global economy forever. Part of the reason Gen Z was able to do this was because they're literally the only generation with the balls to call out the system and realize how BS it all is. We explore this more in this video right here. Check it out. I'll see you there. Thanks for watching.